Place to be, sportsbookreview.com. It is the closing line, 12 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to get you going for 1 full hour today, designed to let you know the happenings in the NFL. Look, as me and Jay prepared all week long, you can go over each and every game, which we're going to rehash today, but the information is in. Now it's time to hone those skills, get that information out to the public, Jay, so we can cash in some more winners. And also keep in mind, last couple minutes of the show, we've been killing it here on the closing line, giving out winners. We're going to do that again today. Jay, welcome into the show. Yet another, it's already week 11. Where's the time flying by, man?
I know, man. You start to get depressed around week 11 because we passed the halfway point, but I'm excited. Let's get it.
Yeah, no, just jumped in the chat box here, so hopefully we'll get another nice supporting chat box so we can have some fun, get after the games. Got almost a full card today. Obviously, teams are still on the bye week. In a couple weeks, Jay, we're going to get full slates of NFL action with no bye weeks. Really looking forward to that. But there's a lot of moving parts in today's games here. A lot of lines that I thought, Jay, would have taken off during the week, a little bit slow, but now looks like some of these favorites are starting to get pounded. Why don't we start off right now, 451, 452, Dallas and Detroit. Obviously, we know Dak Prescott's going to be the starter for the Dallas Cowboys, Jay, but taking a look at the opposite side, still no Matthew Stafford, struggling with that back injury, fractured back. Now we see Adam Schefter sending out tweets. Well, this could be anywhere between 1 to 6 week type of injury, so he'll keep us guessing week to week whether he's not in, but we do know for sure that Driscoll's going to get the start again. Last week at 20-13 loss to the Chicago Bears. Now as we take a look at Detroit, how about this one, Jay? Opens up 3.5, because we weren't really sure where the quarterback was going to end up being, Matthew Stafford or Driscoll. Once Driscoll is announced, it reopens at 5. We saw 5.5, 6, 6.5. Even looking on game day today, 7s across the board. FanDuel out of New Jersey, Jay, actually showing a -7.5. When we talk about value in this football game, if you jumped early in the week and took the Dallas Cowboys, congratulations. But now we're getting to that point, over a touchdown on the road for the Cowboys, where we like the Cowboys at home a lot, but on the road, different story, right, Jay?
Yeah, Pinnacle showing 7.5 plus 106 right now. So, Donnie, I know it's Driscoll, but they didn't get the win last week, but he threw for 270 yards and a touchdown. At 7.5 points, like, I'm starting to think Detroit, it might be worth the play at home. I understand that the spot warrants Dallas. They're coming in off that Vikings loss. I completely get it. But like you said, have the Cowboys really proved themselves on the road the last year and a half with Prescott? Not really. So I agree. If I was going to look one way in this game, I would have to take the Lions plus 7.5 at this point.
It's an interesting one because when we take a look at just some numbers, I mean, Dallas's offense has been really good. I mean, they did take the loss last week against the Minnesota Vikings, but a real impressive outing from Dak Prescott and the wide receivers. Points overall, Jay, in the NFL, 6th coming in. Yards per play in the NFL that we always like to look at, number 1. Passing yards per play, number 1. And when you flip it over, Detroit can be had on defense. Now, look, Detroit's defense, if you just looked at the numbers, they played fairly well last week, but did give up 3 touchdowns to usually an enigmatic Chicago offense. The one thing that we take a look at it, because you're going to find some team totals, because there's a lot of ways that you can make money in football games, whether you tease the Dallas Cowboys down. I can't see the Cowboys losing. So even if you were a teaser player and you tease it down like, 1.5 in that range, you would think Dallas would get the victory. But I tell you one way I didn't end up firing on, and maybe I'm getting a little bit of cold feet on this, was the Dallas team total sitting in that 26.5, 27 type range, figuring they can probably score a touchdown per quarter. The only thing I was worried about, Jay, is can Detroit fire back? Because if you have a team that's going to engage the Cowboys, they can go up and down the football field. Do we think Driscoll's going to be okay in this game? Because I think their team total from the perspective of the Detroit Lions was somewhere around that 19.5 range.
Yeah, FanDuel hanging 19.5 for Detroit right now and 27.5 for Dallas. Look, do I think that Dallas scores 28 points today? Yeah, I do. Yeah, if I'm being honest. Football Outsiders has this team the number 1 offense in football. So, yeah, Dak Prescott looked amazing last week. I understand they lost the game, but it wasn't because of him. So, man, it's tough. I'm not exactly looking to take that Detroit team total over 19.5, but on the at the other end of the spectrum, I think that maybe they're live to cover the 7.5, and those two things don't really coincide, do they? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think at 27.5. I don't think it's asking too much for the Cowboys to put up 1 touchdown per quarter against this defense, who is 25th according to Football Outsiders. So yeah, team total over for Cowboys Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, now Dallas's defense is, I mean, the numbers, top 10 Pro Football Focus, and then, 6th overall in points, so they can put up some effort. It's, because Detroit has a lot of ways they can score. Obviously not a great running game, but the quarterback is athletic. You always like, too, when you're looking, you try not to take too much even out of the first start. Driscoll gets that first start out of nowhere on the road. That's not exactly the easiest environment to go outside and play the Chicago Bears defense. Now you come home, you're not worrying about the crowd noise. You got to start under your belt, so maybe you can make some more efficient throws. He is an athletic quarterback. Matthew Stafford, more of the pocket passer, gunslinger. This guy's going to be able to roll out of the pocket. It's not something I want to lay my money on. And again, as I said early in the week, if you were getting the Dallas Cowboys in that 4.5, 5 range, makes it a little bit more palatable. But now over a touchdown, that means going to have to win by double digits. And then we're looking at the over-under reopens, 46.5, 47.5, dips down to 46.5. It's a tough game overall for me, Jay, to find value each way. Tried all week long, wasn't able to fire anything. Did you end up going with anything in this game, Jay, or no? Just a pass?
I didn't bet anything, but if I was going to endorse one play, I would say if you could find another team on the board that you like, right? Teasing Dallas down to 1.5. I think that's a good look.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. I'd be hard pressed to see the Dallas Cowboys losing because Donnie, a couple weeks ago, they lost to the Jets. Anything can happen. Yeah, of course we know anything can happen. But also, your big guns on the tackles, they're back in this football game. Amari Cooper is going to be going in this football game, primarily healthy. I know Connor Williams is down as the guard, but if there's one guy on that offensive line that you can afford to lose, probably would be him. I think they win this football game and keep marching forward here. 453, 454. This game had a lot of movement during the week on both sides because you saw, New Orleans, perfect bounce back spot. You see 5.5 and 6 where it opens up, it holds at 6. Then you saw a crater down the 5. Now we're seeing a lot of different lines because Pinnacle Offshore here at SBRodds.com, Jay, showing a -5 right now currently as a favorite for the New Orleans Saints. But then if we take a look at Chris Offshore, they're at 5.5. And then if we flip it over, Jay, our home state, showing 4.5 at some of these outlets for the New Orleans game. And I said it all week long, even on the Audible. I got the line at 6 earlier in the week. I think they're going to be a live dog beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this football game. I think they can play it close. You got some components that are now down. You always look, the dome team going outdoors, especially as we know Drew Brees over the years has struggled with that. You're down one of your better offensive linemen. You're down your best cornerback in this football game. And when you're leaking a little bit in the secondary, Jay, you got Godwin and you got Mike Evans coming, a full blast with a Bruce Arians offense. That's always tough. I like the points in this football game to start here.
I think you nailed it, bro. I think the sneaky look of the day could be the Tampa Bay money line. Listen, does Jameis Winston make mistakes? Obviously. He's thrown the most interceptions, I think, in the league. But he's also thrown for over 300 passing yards the majority of the games. He is going to move the football. They beat the Cardinals last week 30-27, okay? They've lost 2 out of their last 3 games, but they put up 34 against Seattle. And they lost the game by less than a touchdown against Tennessee. I think if you got the 6 like you did earlier in the week, I think that's awesome. I even endorse taking them at +5. And to be honest, I think this is a spot where you could sprinkle possibly a little money line action. I really think that Tampa Bay's live. I really do.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? Because we take a look at this one, and, you try not to take too much out of the previous week, Jay, when you're trying to cap a football game, but I still can't get out of my mind how horrible New Orleans was in that football game. The one thing that's interesting is the defense wasn't all that bad, but the offense only putting up 3 field goals at home, coming off a bye, fully healthy. It just didn't make any sense. So I know you don't want to tie that coming over, but I just look at the way Tampa Bay has played, and Bruce Arians has this team up each and every week, even in some tough environments and being on the road. Let's not forget, one of the 55 points on the road against the Rams. You almost beat, the Seattle Seahawks. Now you're coming home, almost getting a touch. Theoretically, they would have to lose by a touchdown probably for you to lose this total. But taking a look at what New Orleans does, look, they still have a really good offensive line, even though Pete's going to be out with a broken arm. You have a great set of wide receivers. Both of your running backs are back in this football game. Drew Brees, another week under since he's, had that thumb injury a little bit earlier in the year. But what do we like about Tampa Bay here? Because Tampa Bay been known to stop the run. They do have somewhat of a pass rush here. JPP coming back to help that out. They are leaky and they are very young, Jay, here on the back end. So I want to transition this into this football game. Opens up 51.5, 51. Now we're seeing 50.5s across the board. And to me, I always have this bias. Tampa Bay for the past couple of years is usually an over team for me as opposed to looking for an under spot. Have any looks here on this total today, Jay?
I think that, listen, did the Saints score 9 points against Atlanta? Yeah, they did. And they looked really, really bad doing it. That offense did not look in sync at all last week. That being said, They put up 31 the week before, 36 the week before that. I don't know how you can look to anything else other than going over 50.5. Now, I know that the total, what did the total open up at?
Let's just say 51. That's
okay.
a round number.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, you can get 50.5 minus 108 right now at Pinnacle. I'm comfortable with that, Donnie. I think both these teams are going to put up points in bunches today. And I think they get up and over that total. What do you think?
No, I can't take it under. Like, you're talking about Jameis Winston, and my one of my coined phrases over the past couple of years, Jay, is boomer bust quarterbacks are sensational for the over, because Drew Brees can be, I don't want to say under fire in the pocket, but he's going to be able to spread the ball around. But Jameis Winston, he can get out of the pocket. He can make unbelievably great plays, but at the same time, unbelievably stupid plays also help you out as well with the total. And I think that's going to happen today. Just taking a look at some of the numbers, Tampa Bay on offense, 3rd overall in the NFL, Jay, in points, yards per play, 17th, passing yards per play, 10th. But I like key components in this game. Lattimore, as we said, not going to be in this football game. Advantage to Mike Evans, advantage to Godwin. They should be able to move this football game. And if we're looking at probably a score in this game, don't you think both teams can easily get into the mid-20s in this game? Wouldn't that be the thought process here?
100%. Yeah. This has 31-27 written all over it, bro.
No, I agree with you on that. And it's funny because moving on the +6, do you still recommend it? Look, if it's 6 and 5, I wouldn't touch it at 5. Anything over a field goal in this game, I would be comfortable, because again, I'm capping this game, Jay, to say Tampa Bay is live to win this football game. I'm not looking really from a perspective of, if they're down 10, they can get through the back door. I think Tampa Bay can win this.
Right. Yeah, I think that's exactly how you have to look at it. And if I'm being honest, I do look at that sometimes. Sometimes when I'll take points in the NFL, it'll be because I think a team will go through the back door. But in situations like this, I think that you're right. Now, you said you would take anything over a field goal in this game.
Yep.
The number would be 4 because of that touchdown field goal split. But I at 5, a little sprinkle on the moment.
No doubt about it. It's an interesting game, because we're going to see it's one of those ultimate bounce back games where you don't want your eyes to actually deceive you on what was taking place in the previous football game. You want to continue it on. But I just think, live at home, I think they can put up the job in this football game. We'll see where it ends up, because obviously we'll have a lot of line movement throughout the 5s. Usually don't stick. We're going to see some bouncing back. As we said, FanDuel out of New Jersey, Jay, a -4.5 for the road team here in New Orleans. Let's get to another game. And I'm telling you, some of these games aren't the most clear. A lot of times I have a clear path once we hit like Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. A couple of these games still up in the air. And this is one of these football games where I got to tell you, I don't agree with the line movement here. And I don't know if it's, Atlanta came out of the break. Atlanta looks really good now on defense, and, Matt Ryan, and they could get it going. But I don't agree with this Carolina move. 6.5s and 7s, now down to 3.5 at SBRodds.com, offshore at Pinnacle. You still have some 4s out there, but DraftKings out of New Jersey, 3.5, FanDuel 3.5, Sugar House out of Pennsylvania at 3.5 also. I'm trying to wrap my mind on, am I missing something here? Is Christian McCaffrey really more damaged goods, and he's going to be on a pitch count today for this football game? Because Carolina is playing good football, and outside of 1 inch last week, they might take the game to overtime in the snow in Green Bay. They're a pretty good football team here. I don't agree with this line movement here, Jay.
I sent it out at 4, the Panthers. Listen, you throw that game away last week. That was the anomaly to this season. That was not the norm for the Atlanta Falcons. The facts remain, they're a 2-7 ball club. Every single team offensively has gotten against this Falcons defense. I understand. I hear a lot of people out there that aren't high on Kyle Allen. He's a turnover machine. I get that. But, with McCaffrey back there and more, I 100% think this game by more than 3.5. This was blown out by the 49ers. They were the 3rd best defense in the league. Now, that's dropped a little. They're like, I think, 13th around there. In a spot like this, especially coming off that Falcons win against the Saints, I think I don't know why. I asked you before the show. I said, why is the line going down in this game? I don't understand it really. Maybe the recency bias of the public seeing the Falcons beat the Saints last week. I'm not sure. But the only way I can look, and I did, I bet it, I sent it, is the Panthers here. And I sent out a 4, and then like an hour later it moved to 3.5. I didn't think it was going to fall that far down, but it did.
There's some components in this game that may make sense if we're looking to try to break down and try to dissect of how this line is actually moving. Because, but the one thing I look for, Atlanta's defense rushing yards per play is 5th. Obviously, that's what you want to do to try to shut down Christian McCaffrey. I'm not sure that would really pertain overall because you're going to get a pretty good look at him. But looking from an Atlanta perspective, like how do you want to attack Carolina? Yeah, I know they're a little bit banged up in the secondary, but you also you're down your tight ends. So you have 2 wide receivers, and Julio Jones should get his. Julio Jones gets his each and every week. But taking a look at the defense, the way you really attack defense here, Jay, Carolina's defense 31st in the NFL in yards per play on the ground. Who's running the football and what type of offensive line is going to be able to push around anybody from the Atlanta Falcons? That's what I just keep looking at in this football game. Now, do I agree with the line that shouldn't be at 7, should be at 6.5? The 3.5s are awfully cheap here. I like to see how this game is going to actually play out because I think Carolina can score on offense, and they've shown a propensity. You're right, Kyle Allen, not the greatest quarterback in the world, but he's making all the throws. You got wide receivers that are healthy. CMC is going to be in this football game. Greg Olsen, legitimate tight end. I'm not willing to say, hey, this is the Atlanta Falcons team we should have saw all year last week, and they're going to roll it into the second half and save their head football coach. Let's not forget also, they get up for a game. Like the Eagles get up for the Cowboys. They're going to get up for the Saints game coming out of the bye, spend a lot of energy, back-to-back road games now. I think it shows up. Well, Carolina should win this football game by enough margin, 4 points, 24-20, 28-24, worst case scenario. I can't see why why the line moved, and I'll back Carolina in the spot.
And Donnie, let's be honest, at this point in the season, you have to look at records, okay? The Panthers are 5-4. They have everything to play for right now. Everything. They're still trying to get a wild card spot. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I mean, obviously, teams ahead of them. But I mean, still at 5-4, they have everything to play for. Summer Link brings up a good point. If the Falcons lose to the Saints, he says the line is 10 this week. I don't think it's 10, but that's a good point. We're definitely getting the Panthers cheap here. Even if it's a point or two cheap because of that Falcons Saints win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with you because when you look at Atlanta, obviously the record, and you are what you are. They're not an upper echelon team. They are a bottom feeder in the NFL. And even a last quick 5-game snapshot of what we're taking a look at the Carolina Panthers, they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 34-27. They beat the Tampa Bay Bucks 37-26. Got roasted by San Francisco. San Francisco upper echelon team, but then they come back and beat a decent Tennessee football team 30-20. And as we said last week in Green Bay, 1 inch from the goal line, we're probably looking at the game possibly going to overtime versus Green Bay, an upper echelon team. I think you're going to go downgrade in competition here. I think they're going to be able to move the football. I think they'll be able to score. Now, do I like an actual total in this football game? I sort of backed off it because I was leaning towards it, but also Jay opens up at 50.5. Even Chris opened up offshore at 54. This game is now 49s, and even some New Jersey outlets showing 48.5 in this football game.
Yeah, I lean under, but I wouldn't bet it now, obviously, because you've lost a couple points worth of value. I don't know how many points you're going to get on the road. Somebody said it's Atlanta's first game outside a dome. I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah, it might be true. I didn't actually look that back, but I think coming into the season, Jay, through their 16 games, I think they only had 3 outdoor games total. That might be true. Yeah. I mean, if that's the case, I wouldn't bet it because, it opened at 51 or whatever. But I think they probably still get under 49 because, let's be honest, Kyle Allen is not an offensive machine, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think the Panthers defense should make enough plays to slow down Atlanta. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And again, I still think Carolina is the side here. 3.5, I think, is pretty good money on that one. I'll stick with that one in this game. Yep. Interesting one here, 457, 458. Jacksonville and Indianapolis. The battle of the quarterbacks coming back from injury. Nick Foles has been activated off the IR. Been practicing already a couple weeks, so he plays. Only got, 1 quarter in opening day versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And he got Jacoby Brissett. Last time we saw him, a knee injury when they were in the red zone versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going to wear a bulky knee brace, but he is back today. Can't be anything worse worse than what we saw last week out of Brian Hoyer in a loss to the lowly Miami Dolphins. But now Indianapolis gets another shot at it at home in a key AFC South divisional battle. Let's also remember a really big battle on deck on Thursday Night Football, Jay, when Indianapolis is going to take on the Texans. So back-to-back tough spots for them. Opening lines, 2.5 in that range. We saw 3s early in the week, but they've since reversed back to 2.5. I don't know if that line is really going to move all that much before kickoff here, but it's about of what you like. I mean, still no T.Y. Hilton on one side of the football. Darius Leonard is going to be playing in this football game for the Colts, but Jacksonville Jaguars reinvigorate. If we take a look at their season totals, even with a backup quarterback from when we were going back and forth on what they do, yards per play, 9th in the NFL with Minshew, passing yards per play, 15th, rushing on the ground with Leonard Fournette, 6th, and we're taking a look at an Indy defense, 17th in points, and really middling across the board, rushing yards per play, yards per play overall, about 15th, 16th in the NFL. I think Indianapolis can play in this football game. Frank Wright is a great football coach, and it's hard to say, wait a second, Donnie. Look, I see what's going on in Indianapolis. They should be able to win this football game. They're home. It's only 3, but I think Jacksonville's got something for them. If you got the 3 early in the week, like I did in the Pick 6 contest, I like Jacksonville plus the 3 points. 2.5, obviously, changes that narrative quite a bit here, Jay.
Donnie, I was fully prepared to be on Jacksonville if Brian Hoyer was going to start the game for Indy. It's 3% now. I think that's why this line has moved to 0.5 point. I agree with you. If you got the 3 earlier in the week, you're looking good. I gave that out on the odds market show with Flash. At 2.5, you're right. It changes things. I think, listen, man, I understand that the Jaguars have only won 4 games this year, but they are a top 14 team, both offensively and defensively. Nick Foles knows in his heart, I'm sure he thinks he still has a lot to prove in Jacksonville, even off of what he did in Philly. But this is a new team. You got to prove yourself to new fans. He gets hurt early in the year. Gardner Minshew did a good job. I think the locker room gets a boost in the arm this week. I think my gut tells me that Jacksonville still probably wins this football game. Okay. But because the line's 2.5, I'm going to lay off it. But Donnie, that line opens on the total at 44. You can get a line at Heritage right now at 41.5 minus 105. I think that's cheap, man. I think it's going over 41.5. I think both these offenses are going to move the ball. I understand both these teams are solid defensively. I get it. But you know what? They're also solid offensively. When you see a total 41.5 in the National Football League, it's because there are 2 offenses playing that are much worse than these offenses today. And I think that line's cheap. I like the over.
Yeah, D.D. Westbrook also missed the last game. They didn't look too good, obviously, against Houston, 26-3 loss. Minshew's last game overseas. DJ Hayden didn't play in that football game. He'll be back for this game for the Jacksonville Jaguars as a cornerback. And also, as we just said there, D.D. Westbrook, 32 catches on the season. He missed that football game as well. He'll be back. So you got 3 legitimate wide receivers here for Nick Foles at quarterback. I look for a spirited effort. And when you take a look at Indy's offense, I really like Indianapolis offense, Jay, when they have T.Y. Hilton to give them that explosion play to sort of set up the middle of the field. When that's gone, yeah, they're really bogged down on offense. I think Jacksonville, again, coming off a bye, getting a little bit of boost in their arm, still looking forward to say, hey, you know what? We might be able to make the playoffs, especially if we win a football game here in the division. That's a really good division because, this theoretically at the end of the season, you look at the AFC South, all 4 teams might be 500 or better to end the season. That's pretty impressive here. I'm going to lean on going still with the 2.5. I think Jacksonville can win this football game outright. And I agree with you there on the total because when you try to break it down, you say to yourself, all right, let's just say it's 42. We use a round number on this one. Don't you? Both of these teams can approach 20 points. And if you think that's going to be the case, you got a great shot at the over here.
Yeah, I agree. And I think at plus 125 on the money line, I think Jacksonville is fully capable of winning this football game, man. I like it, and I like the over. I didn't bet the over, but I might bet the over before the end of the show.
2 good defenses here, Jay. In the next battle, we're going to talk about 459, 460, Denver and Minnesota. Rookie quarterback going on the road for his first career start on the road, going against Minnesota. What's not to like about Minnesota? What an impressive performance going on the road in primetime action and knocking down the Dallas Cowboys, buoyed by a red zone stop on 4th down. Now they come back home. Maybe the pressure's a little bit off. You say, hey, double-digit favorite at home in the Dome. Adam Thielen's still going to sit out. We got that big win last week. It's an AFC battle, so maybe would take it a little bit lighter as opposed to if it was NFC, because we're taking a look at the lines here, opening up 10.5. Not a lot of line move, but you know what I'm seeing now, Jay? Even added some of the Jersey books, -9.5 showing up across the board. So if you get that double-digit lead, you have a shot at covering here, as opposed to 10s and 10.5s that were on the board early in the week, theoretically needing to win by more than 2 scores in order to cash that ticket. Do I think Minnesota's a much better football team? I really do. But here's what it comes down to me in this football game, Jay. When you're looking from a Denver side, Denver, is going to be very good on defense. Got a great defensive coordinator who's the head football coach, but I think some of the things coming out of Denver kind of alarming here, where he's not getting along with people in the building, and maybe they made a mistake by the head coach. That's awfully damning when those type of stories leak out of the building during a game week or so close to the game. We'll see what we have, but it comes down to me. I still think Minnesota, even though they got lit up a little bit against the Dallas Cowboys are an unbelievable offense. That's not the case in Denver. When I'm looking at Denver, and if I want to back Denver as a side here, Jay, they have to score at least 17 points for me to be in this football game for a chance at the win and cover. I don't think they're going to get there. I look at 14 points or less as a barometer, and if I'm going to have a team on the road that's going to score 14 points, I can't take them, even if the line 9.5. I can't take that at that point here.
I love the Vikings, Donnie. First of all, yeah, you're right. That was against that Dallas game. That's the best offense in football right now. That's number one. Number two, did Brendan Allen beat the Browns? Yeah, he did, but it's the Browns, okay? Now, is this Denver Bronco defense good? Yes, they're 6th in the league in defensive DOA, but they are a very different offense on the road. They play better at home. Number three, Dalvin Cook's the best running back in football for my money, I personally believe. I understand that Adam Thielen's not playing. You still got Stephon Diggs, who is a monster. Laquan Treadwell's on the field. In my opinion, I got the Vikings. I got a Vikings first half -5.5 ticket in my pocket. I got a Vikings -9.5 ticket, full game in my pocket. I think coming in, they're feeling good. They're one of only 2 teams on Football Outsiders that is top 10 both offensively and defensively, coming in at 7 and 8. I think that this is the one team in the NFC that nobody's talking about. Everybody's talking about the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Saints, and the Packers. Forgetting about Minnesota, Donnie, and I think they have a legitimate chance to be in the NFC Championship game this year. I really like this team. The only thing that holds me back when I say that is I think to myself, Kirk Cousins is their quarterback. But you know what, man? He gets the job done more times than he doesn't. So I really like the Vikings today to dick stomp the Broncos. I'm all about them.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point there, looking at Minnesota, not so much from just this game perspective, but moving forward. You would hope they would try to catch the Packers there, because home field advantage in the playoffs is massive, especially from a dome team going outdoors as opposed to staying at home. But when you look at Minnesota, what's not to like about the team, the way they're actually built? Because it is based on what Kirk Cousins' performance is going to be. And if he's giving performances week after week after week that he's been doing, sky's the limit for this team, because when they get out
Are they the most complete team in football if Kirk Cousins has his A game?
I mean, if he plays his A game, they would be right up there, because when you're winning, well, I like to look at as winning. Their offensive line maybe not as stout as some of the other teams, but when you win at all levels, you have the wide receivers, you have the running backs, you have the quarterback, also playing into that as a head football coach and the mindset that he gets his team in. When you look at the defense, outstanding defensive line, super athletic, linebackers, and a secondary that also can win. Now, Xavier Rhodes, if he gets his act back together and returns to, 2 to 3 years ago, that's an elite level defense. And they're playing elite level football, Pro Football Focus, top 6 defense. If you're getting that, maybe they can go down the road and get that top spot, because when they're playing their A game, Jays, I think what we're trying to pertain to, they're a tough out, man.
Can you tell me why then the line goes? Now, you're talking about the best coach against the spread in the National Football League, 65% since he took over. Why is Zimmer's team at home go from a 10.5 point favorite to 9.5? Can you tell me why the line's moving towards Denver?
Yeah, it's another interesting one, because I guess people are just looking at saying, well, I'm going to get a top 5 defense per se with Denver, and maybe Minnesota sleepwalk. So again, talk about early in the week, the one was 10.5, maybe that 19-9 type game that they beat the Washington Redskins. They can see it around that level. But this is one of those games also where you take a look and you still have to say, do you think Denver's going to win the football game? To me, Jay, I don't think they can win the game. So the secondary option, if you're looking from the Denver Broncos, is okay. Let's say Denver's down 14 points late in the football game. Does that mean Brandon Allen can go down the road on a rookie quarterback on the road, go down the field against Minnesota and get a backdoor touchdown? I'm not so sure that's possible.
No, I don't think so. I look at this game and it's got 31-14, 31-13 written all over it. I think that I understand that this Denver Broncos football team has a really good defense, but man, they are a different defense away from home. They really are. They're not as good away from home. So I think that Minnesota, even without Adam Thielen, because I love Alvin Cook and, Stephon Diggs is good enough, and they have a couple other pieces. I really think that they have a shot, even though this is a solid defense, to pull some margin on this team today. I really like them.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see where it actually ends up. But if you're going to get that 9.5, because again, line shopping is very important. If you get 10, that's a completely different outlook as opposed to getting 9.5. I'll tell you one game that's changing a lot on the board, especially in the last 15 to 20 minutes, Jay. 461, 462. The New York Jets head out on the road and play the Washington Redskins. We saw mostly 2s and 2.5s across the board. Pinnacle actually flashing now a -1 on the Washington Redskins, -112 on the juice. Chris showing a -2. -2s primarily across the board in New Jersey. Actually, FanDuel now showing a 1.5. So we do have some movement in that one. Jets, a heavy public side throughout the week, but now looks like some of that public money coming through and pushing that money with some late action here. Now, what do we like about the Washington Redskins? Not that much, but the teams that they played over the past 4 to 5 weeks, upper echelon squads. Now you're going to get a look at the Jets, who are now going on the road, and we saw the destruction that the Jets currently are, especially when they go on the road. But when you take a look at some of the numbers, Washington Redskins 32nd in points, yards per play 28th, passing yards per play 22nd. But then again, looking at the Jets on the opposite side, not a great offense either. This is an interesting game coming down to, and again, if you're going to get a good start out of Dwayne Haskins, doesn't it seem like it's possibly the week to do it, coming off of the bye, playing the New York Jets at home. Darius Guice coming back as a running back in this game to try to help out Adrian Peterson. There's not a lot to like on each side in this game, which is interesting. It's one of those lower bottom level games, but it's an NFL game and we are better. So we bet these games.
I know, but I look at this game, right? And I'm like, I want to say to the public, bro, there's 13 other games on the board. What are you doing with this game? Just pass. I mean, what are you betting this game for? I mean, listen, the total's 37.5. Now, the Jets actually are like 11th in defense on Football Out. Surprising to me, because they look bad more weeks than they don't on defense. But I guess the numbers don't lie. I don't know. I don't have a clue who's going to win this game. These are two god-awful football teams. That's what they are. I mean, I guess I understand why the Jets are taking money, because maybe there's a perception coming into the year that they were supposed to be a better football team than Washington. But there's nothing good that I can say about all 4 units on both teams. I mean, normally you and I talk about it all the time. 2 bad teams, games usually go over. So maybe at 37.5, it's low enough where you take a look at the going over the total. But this is a complete pass.
What's interesting about this game, because I like to look at it and say, well, who have you played the past couple weeks? It's past 4 out of 5 weeks. They did beat Miami on the road, but obviously that was with a different quarterback as well, being the Washington Redskins I'm talking about here. But they faced the 8th, 6th, 3, and 2nd rated defenses over the past few weeks. It's hard to, and again, Washington usually plays with a hand tied behind their back anyway, talent-wise. But when you're playing teams like the Buffalo Bills on the road, Minnesota on the road, New England, you're not going to get a great look. And also throw that in with the San Francisco 49ers, who in that football game was a quagmire where you were just handing off and praying you didn't fumble and see if you could get in the red zone. That was a 9-0 game. It's one of the more interesting games of the week looking, because you're saying to yourself, if you're Washington, this has to be your spot. And maybe you're saying, the Battle of Gotham last week and they ended up winning it. Now you say that Adam Gase is safe for the rest of the year, that they take a deep breath. But certainly 2 bad football games I don't want to spend that much time on. But if we're taking a look at a total here, Jay, anytime I see something in the 30s, it really sticks in my craw, saying, I don't really care how bad the defenses are, what we may think. 37.5. That's a tough number to say, you know what? I'm going under in this one, Jay. Any thoughts on the total?
Yeah. A lot has to go right for 2 NFL teams to go under 37. Or I should say a lot has to go wrong, I guess. But Donnie, I see the guys talking about Adam Gase. it was all over New York radio today that Gase isn't going anywhere this year. He will be here next year. That's what the New York Jets brass is saying. I don't know that I'm staying away. I'll watch it. I'm a diehard Jets fan, but there's not a chance that I'm not putting $1 on this game. Bro.
How much time you spending on the live line today, Jay, on the Jets game, huh?
Yeah. About 6 minutes out of the 4.5 hours that will be on there. Yeah.
No, I certainly. It's actually an interesting game to cap, but it actually isn't at the same side because you look at both offenses, like, and then look at both defenses and say, well, I could see something here or there, and how many people are actually going to be in attendance down here? If you're a Jets fan, I know people always like to say it's easier to get Jets tickets out of town because of the New York market, and the Redskins over the past years don't sell out, and you can but do you really want to travel if you're a Jets fan? Say, hey, no, I'm going to take a train ride down 2 hours to check out this football game. Exactly. And if you're a Washington Redskins fan, you're saying, please, Jets, come down and buy my tickets because I don't really feel like going to this game as well. So a devastating home environment today, it looks like, for the Washington Redskins. Now, as we start to flip the page, we went over a couple of games here early. Not a lot of games that were really stimulating. Say, boy, I can't wait to get after this. But now some of these other games coming into play. We'll start with this one. And the line movement has an interesting effect here. Buffalo and Miami. I don't know how Miami won the game last week, putting up like 225 yards on offense. I don't know how Miami is even being competitive, let alone winning football games and covering, but they have been doing that, and that's something you want to pay attention to. But the old adage comes into play in this football game, Jay, because we saw earlier in the week, lines open up 6.5, dip to 5.5, even some 5s out there. Now we're seeing game days back up to 7. And the same thing, look, it's Buffalo. We know their offense does struggle, but you're going against a team that's certainly not as talented. But do we trust the Buffalo Bills, especially now on game day here, laying 7 points on the road? So there. I think we might have lost Jay for a second there on the outlet. We'll wait for him to cut back in here and get going on this. But just looking at the overall perception of the Buffalo Bills, I want to take them, and I wanted to take them at 5.5, and I would have taken them at 6, but now we're looking at 7. You have to get that double-digit access on the road. I don't know if they can do that in this football game. When we take a look at some numbers overall, each and every week, sooner or later, numbers are going to come back to bite you. And if you're the Miami Dolphins on the season, because we have enough games under wraps that we can take a look at, we can go through each individual game for the Miami Dolphins, but the numbers always ring true here. If we look at the Miami Dolphins, Pro Football Focus on defense, 32nd overall. You know what that means? There's only 32 football teams in the NFL. When we take a look at the offense for the Miami Dolphins, you know what? 32nd in the NFL. So if I'm going to get the worst offense in the NFL and combine that with the worst defense in the NFL, how do we actually go out there and cap these type of situations? Like, how do you just say, you know what? The Miami Dolphins are playing. I don't really care about what the numbers say. I don't really care about what the statistics say. I'm just going to get after it and bet the Miami Dolphins. And I can't fault you because of the Buffalo Bills then going on the road and saying, wait a second, Donnie, Bills going to have to win this game by 10 points. Did they do it in the last game versus the Buffalo Bills, win by 10? Yes. But don't you remember how they won by 10 in that football game? Dolphins were live that entire game. And how about an onside kick return for the Buffalo Bills to make that a 10-point game? And if I remember correctly out there, somebody can certainly, get back to me on the chat box. Wasn't that line like 15, 16 points that the Buffalo Bills are laying? Now they're only laying 7, so it's a 12-point difference between the Miami Dolphins of a couple weeks. Thank you, Jay. There you go. I was just giving them a little preamble here on the Dolphins saying, I like the Buffalo Bills. They're going to win this football game. But did the Buffalo Bills win this football game, Jay? By double digits is the question, right?
Yeah, Donnie, I absolutely love the Miami Dolphins today. I absolutely love them. Listen, it's that Fitz magic, baby. I'm telling you right now, since Ryan Fitzpatrick took over at quarterback, the Miami Dolphins have outscored their opponents in total points by 2 points, okay? Now, they lost this game against Buffalo in Buffalo, right? They played better almost the entire than the Buffalo Bills did, and they made a play. They end up losing that game by 10 points. Now you're going to go home and you're going to give Miami a touchdown. They've won back-to-back weeks. They look better. They're about a 500 football team against the spread this year. I love Miami. Now, listen, Football Outsiders hates this team. They're 31-32, okay, in offense and defense.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, man, I've been getting paid this year backing them against the spread. I took them again, plus the 7, and I might even be looking to sprinkle a little bit on the money line here. I really think that they got a shot. If they can go out and beat the Colts, why can't they beat the Bills? The Bills suck, man. Yes, their defense is really, really good, but Josh Allen is not a good quarter. Offense is stagnant week after week after week. You're telling me that Miami can't steal a game at home today as a 7-point dog? That line goes from 6 to 7. I don't understand the line moves this week. How does this game get to a touchdown?
No, it's odd because I could actually see if it opened that. Yeah, I could see if it opened at like -7 and stayed at 7, but the line dipped to 5, and then people said, you know what? I like it all the way up to a touchdown because that's a huge threshold because we know the difference between 5s, 6s, 6.5s, and then 7. 7 means you got to win by, theoretically double digits in this football game. I don't know if they can do it. And I was even trying to angle in and say, you know what? I'm not even, or since I'm hesitating, like Buffalo's team total, like 23.5. They should be able to get to 24 against Miami. But something in my back of my head says, you know what? We've seen the overthrows. Just go back last week. Watch the tape last week, Jay, with the Cleveland game. Early drive in the game, 4th and 4, Buffalo's driving at about maybe the 38, 39-yard line. 1 first down. If they can pick it up, they're going to be in field goal range and maybe be able to go down and score a touchdown. Wide open slant pass. Josh Allen throws it at the guy's feet, and they turn it over. Just those easy plays that you have to make, which add up the points because you're going to need 3 touchdowns and a field goal to cover it. I'm not so sure they can do that. I think, again, this prefaces by saying I think Buffalo wins the football game. I just can't back them at -7.
Not -7. Yeah, I agree, man. If anybody wants to take a flyer on a Dolphins money line, I get it. They're playing the Bills. But the pick here, the only way you can look in this game is taking the 7 points. Who wants to lay a touchdown with the Bills on the road right now? I don't care if you're playing Bloomfield High School. You want to lay a touchdown on the road right now with the Buffalo Bills? Come on, bro.
So you wouldn't even lay it with the Bloomfield Bengals over there, huh?
Yeah. I would take the 7 with the Bloomfield Bengals. Yeah, I would.
No, and again,
so I'm all over Miami.
I can't fault you. I can't. Like 5, I was actually had my finger on the trigger at the 5s, and I said, let me just let this game play out because when you take a look at it, it should be a victory. But then again, as I was saying, Joe, when you cut out there for a second, what was this line? 16, 17 points last time these two played. Now all of a sudden we're talking about it's at 7. So some of the miscalculation before what they had. And also in that previous game, Jay, was the fact that it looks good on paper, right? 31-21 victory, whatever that 10-point victory was, Buffalo. Let's not forget, I think Micah Hyde took back the onside kick for a touchdown with under a minute to go.
Right.
Had those statistics. So that game was a lot closer than what we thought. So we'll see what happens in that game. But now we finally get to talk some real football, Jay. The people hung on with us in the chat box to get through some of these awful games. Now we got some bell ringers. 1 o'clock, 465, 466. Houston and Baltimore. Sharps are loving those Houston Texans coming out of the bye week. Will Fuller looked like he might have been able to go for this week. Limited practices in. But keep in mind again, next week game, technically a little bit of a bigger game for the Texans than this one here in Baltimore when they face off against the Indianapolis Colts. So Will Fuller held back. Also, Bradley Roby, one of the cornerbacks, held back as well when we know that secondary is already banged up as is. Now, who wants to step in front of the Lamar train right now? Looks like they are slicing and dicing everybody. And I got to tell you, it's one of those lines that opens up early in the week saying, 4.5? That seems a little bit thin, but now we see it settle in, Jay. Chris, offshore, one of the sharper books, 4. Pinnacle, offshore, -4. Some of the New Jersey sports books, 4.5. This is really a great game, though. I think there's going to be points in this football game. That's the way I'm going with it, over the total. Yeah. But I got to tell you, I know people have strong, look, Houston's offense should be able to do something. I get Houston's offense should be able to do some things, but it seems like Baltimore's offense does some things against everybody, and I'm not ready to step in front of that Lamar train. And look, this isn't Houston's J.J. Watt defenses over the past 4 to 5 years. You can score on this football team, and nobody's stopping Lamar right now, Jay.
No. Yeah, Donnie, this is the game I'm looking forward to watching the most today.
Yep.
I agree with you. I think the only bet I could make in this game is on the over, because I don't know. Yeah, listen, taking the 4 points with the Houston Texans, I get it. You know what I mean? Even though that, they won the last 2 games, they're rolling. They're not coming in off a loss or anything. But I'm higher on the Texans than most people. I think they really do have a chance to be the third best team in the AFC behind the Ravens and the Patriots. Don't look great this year so far. I like this team a lot. That being said, I can't step in front of Lamar Jackson right now. That offense looks incredible right now. And yes, you're right. The defense is. This is not the Baltimore Ravens defense with Ray Lewis. Well, yeah, up until 3 weeks ago, they were giving up the most yards per play in the National Football League. So I agree. I think both these offenses are going to get off and probably all day. So for me, I think the only reasonable way you can look is going over 51.
Yeah, because when you look at both of these offenses, Jay, I mean, 2 dynamic quarterbacks that can extend the play, which is huge as is. But Houston overall 6th in the NFL in yards per play. The Baltimore Ravens 3rd overall in yards per play. When you take a look at both of those defenses, because usually when you think about, as you just said, Baltimore's defense, really good. Houston's defense, really good. Well, yards per play, Baltimore this year, Jay, 22nd in the NFL, and Houston 23rd. Right. 2 elite offenses, 2 average defenses, and it is a little bit colder. So if you say, all right, the Texans are a dome team, they're coming north. 41, 42 degrees, winds around 10 miles an hour. They can both handle this. 2 strong-arm quarterbacks. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I like the total more than the side. But again, Pinnacle showing 4. So 4s are the prevailing number, which Houston, again, coming off the bye is nice. I understand all that, but I'm not ready the same way you are, Jay, to step in front of it and lay that wood. Let's keep going here. Let's go to the West Coast. 4 o'clock games now enter it. Arizona and San Francisco. And I talked with Jimmy during the week on the Audible Whale Capper. This line sort of got in the way. It's 12.5, 13s they open up. Now we're seeing 10s and even 9.5s out of the New Jersey Sportsbook. So again, we talk about when you got the line and how that's going to affect your cap, because if you're sitting on 12.5 or 12 or 11.5, that's a lot different perspective is now looking at 9.5. So I think the San Francisco 49ers are a much better football team. Yes, but a lot of things going against them this week. You had a Super Bowl type game versus San Francisco versus Seattle Monday Night Football. You lost it, but you also lost it in overtime, Jay, and compounded. You lost and got injured in that football game. Now have to turn around against an Arizona team that's really game. And the one thing you need, Jay, against a San Francisco pass rush is an elusive quarterback that can get away, which Arizona does. Under 9.5, I sort of say, you know what, I still like Arizona. But if you were getting that double digits or more earlier in the week, Jay, I think Arizona's the right play here.
I can't argue that, Donnie. Listen, man, that was a really physical football game the 49ers played 6 days ago. And the extra quarter to boot. It's not the same quarterback when George Kittle is not in the lineup. He's the security blanket for this entire offense. Now, you do get Emmanuel Sanders back, but it's incredible. Without Sanders and without Kittle, that offense couldn't do anything. But listen, they came out of that game really banged up in a couple key spots. So for me, I agree. Now, listen, the 49ers, the first time they played, they smashed them until they took their foot off the gas a little bit. And the Cardinals came back some. I can't lay I don't even feel comfortable right now laying 10 or 9.5. I think this could be a very a closer than you would think. Now, I know the spot warrants San Francisco at home to right the ship off that overtime loss last week. I get it. I don't feel good about it though. I think you know, every week that Kyler Murray has and Kingsbury have, they seem to be getting better. You know, they really do seem to be improving. I think the Cardinals could give the 49ers a stiff shot in the arm, and it could come down to a couple fourth quarter plays today. So I can't lay the 10. I'm not looking to really take the 10 either, but I can't lay it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say in agreements with you. And also looking at the total, which is funny because Arizona, we talk about, snap rates and they're going to run fast. The one thing that brings this game is I know Arizona's going to snap it and go fast, but you're still going to play an elite level defense out there. And then you flip it over on the opposite side with San Francisco. The one thing that you can certainly take out of is when you're down some of those big weapons, the explosive plays go away. Breed is not going to be in this football game. We know Tevin Coleman will probably get a quarter and a half in before he goes into the tent and gets checked out for some inane shoulder or ankle injury. No Kittle, as you said. And look, Emmanuel Sanders is coming in with a rib injury. They're probably going to shoot him up so he doesn't feel any pain. But that's one of those things where you take a nice little wicked shot in the first quarter. You're not showing back up either. And when you take the top two weapons away from a quarterback, he's going to look average. And I think that's what you might get in this football game. I actually like the under in this football game also here. 44 is now showing up. If you got it early in the week, the 45s and a half and the 46 is much better. But I think this game actually plays to an under with Arizona, which is odd for me to say.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it. I don't see a huge edge on the under, but I think that, if you gave me a free bet and I was going to bet the total, I'd bet under 44. I would have much rather had 45 and a half or 46 earlier in the week, but I don't know. I think this is a really tough game to bet, man. I really do.
No, it's one that I laid off there, but I do actually like the under in the football game. 2 more games to go. Obviously, the Live Line crew is going to cover that Chicago Rams tonight live, so definitely make sure you tune in. Also at 1 o'clock, tune in with Jay and the boys, going over all those 1 o'clock games, keeping you interested in here, hitting some prop bets and also some live bets. Always a fun show and also designed, obviously, put more money in your pocket there, Jay Force. Let's go over these 2 games. And you see the jersey, you see the shirt. Just getting back to my Super Bowl days. What if I told you the Philadelphia Eagles have a chance to beat the New England Patriots 3 times in a row with 3 different quarterbacks? Sam Bradford did it. Nick Foles did it. Now can Carson Wentz do it? Well, Wentz going to have to do it here, Jay, with a hand tied behind his back, because an offense that's been stagnant for most of the year lost its 2 probably most reputable players at skill positions. Forget about tight end Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert. They're playing. They'll be fine. Alshon Jeffrey not going to suit up in this football game. But, let's go back and get Jordan Matthews off the street. He should be fine. And, look, we want to run the football. We're going to take Jordan Howard out. He's not going to play. We got Miles Sanders, good running back. But you know what? God damn it, Jay Ajayi, you want a Super Bowl with us? We're going to sign you on Friday morning after breakfast and say, you know what? Get them pads on, son. You're going to go out there and run wild. Now, this game had me scratching my head all week long, Jay, because these same issues that the Philadelphia Eagles are having, Patriots ain't having those issues. They're coming in healthy in this football game, and only more injured out of the bye are the Philadelphia Eagles. And this line's sitting at 3.5 all week, Jay. I'm going, what? Like, I know it's supposed to be sharp. I know how the NFL works. I know the Eagles have a good offensive line. But what the hell's going on? It's not moving. Finally, you saw a breakthrough. 4.5s across the board here, Jay, for this Patriot game.
Yeah, man. Bill Belichick with an extra week to prepare, coming in off getting crushed by the Ravens. Yes, please. Think the Ravens. Listen, Donnie. Your Eagles have been in a tough spot all year because of that secondary. It's so bad, man. And the front 7 isn't getting the pressure that they've gotten in years past. Now they're not healthy on offense. I mean, I just don't see how they win this football game. I really don't. I have the Patriots money line big today. I like when the line first opened. Yeah, man. I'm even comfortable laying the 4 points. Now it's already up to 4.5. Ordinarily, I hate to bet the worst of the number, but I cannot see how, with all the injuries that Philly has and with how bad that secondary has, and when you think about Philly and getting pressure on the front 7, who gets rid of the ball? One of the fastest in the league, Tom Brady. They're not going to touch him all game. I really don't think so. So I'll be looking to bet player props over. Who's the wide receiver, Donnie?
Which one? We talking about Sanu? We talking about Edelman? Or we talking about
Edelman?
Yeah, Edelman should eat. Edelman always eats. Yeah.
Edelman over receptions. I'm probably going to be on. Edelman over yards. I'm probably going to be on Live Line. And I think that they're going to win this football game comfortably. I just don't see it this way.
The one thing I like better is I put out a video earlier this week. I like the under in this football game. Now we're seeing some 45.5 showing up. I think it stays under. You say, well, it's Brady in that offense. They should move the football. I hear that. And Carson Wentz is still going to be an athletic quarterback. You're talking about two pretty good quarterbacks playing, but also take a look at New England, first in a lot of categories in yards per play. But more importantly, both of these offenses, big strike capabilities. The New England Patriots 22nd in the NFL in yards per play, and the Philadelphia Eagles 23rd and injured. I look for this football game, first team to 20 wins this football game, 24-17, 24-20. I do think it's going to be a close football game, which is why I was not picking the side. But I can't really back my Eagles being hamstrung. If Jordan Howard was playing, Alshon Jeffrey was healthy, to give him a more complete complement at home, because the Eagles do play very well at home, I would see more of a pathway there. I'm going to root and cheer, and I hope they win, but I actually like the under. Jay, any thoughts on the total on this one?
Yeah, I guess I could see under because, Alshon Jeffrey, that's a big loss, man. Yeah. And both those guys. I think that I don't know how many points that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be able to put up today. Even 24-17, you're still under the number, and the Patriots still cover the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I could see the under. I just really think the Pats are going to cover that spread, though.
Yeah, it should be. I'm looking forward to it. It's a 4:00 game, so at least I get to unwind at 1:00, watch some bets come in before I can really focus there. Last game, we'll talk about 471, 472. And why are we talking about it? Well, it's on the board. Oakland Raiders. All of a sudden, the playoff-bound Oakland Raiders, Jay, going up against Cincinnati, a team with absolutely nothing to play for, cutting players, trying to see if a rookie quarterback can play, doesn't have very many weapons. Now going into a good environment here for Oakland. This line has crept up. -11s and 10.5s all week long. Now we're seeing 13s on the board. So if you got something in earlier, congratulations. It's one of those things where it's hard to take Oakland as a double-digit favorite, but to me, it's actually harder to take Cincinnati as an actual team on the road to try to cover a spread. Yeah. I got an interesting angle here I'm going to give out in just a few moments here on our best bets, but it's Oakland or nobody in this game. If you're going to take Cincinnati, you want to be on, you can't lay with Oakland. I understand, but my God, this team is a walking dead football team right now, Jay.
Yeah, listen, the biggest surprise to me coming into the year, so from what I've seen play out, I think is the Raiders, man. They are so much better than I thought that they would be. Mm-hmm. They have the 5th best offense in football. Can you believe that?
Crazy.
According to Football Outsiders. Yeah. I would look at maybe like a Raiders team total over getting off against that god-awful Cincinnati Bengal defense. They're literally the last in the league, I think. I think the Raiders are improving. I absolutely love Josh Jacobs. I look at Josh Jacobs overs today, anytime touchdown prop today. But I agree with you on a 13. I don't think the Raiders are there yet where you could feel comfortable laying 13 on the points. Not yet. And on the flip side, you can't. Who wants 13 points with Cincinnati? I don't. So, yeah, I don't know. I could see the game going under 48 because you're probably not going to get much out of Cincinnati. So I would say I would lean under 48, or I would take the Raiders team total over.
Yeah, I like your point on. I think Jacobs goes for over 100 yards and scores 2 touchdowns in this football game. I just think Oakland, naming their number, it's just a matter of Cincinnati can come back and answer with those rookie quarterbacks. Yeah. But that'll do it for the show here, Jay. Time for best bets, as I already put in the chat box there. Best bets for me. I'm going to go 2 first-half wagers here. I think there's no reason to believe the Raiders won't be up a touchdown at the half, 17-7, something in that range. I think they cover that -6.5. It is a little bit juicier now as the day is going forward, but also the New England Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to go under, but I'm going to go under in the first half. 2 teams notoriously slow starting teams. I think it stays under 3 touchdowns in the first half. I'll take the under 22.5. How about you today, Jay?
Give me, I'm going to hold, listen, I'm doing it. Give me the Miami Dolphins +7 today. And give me the Minnesota Vikings -5.5 in the first half.
There you go. Plays, winners. What are we, 2 to 3 minutes away from kickoff? Join Jay again. The boys will get it going here for the early games on the live line. Then Jay's going to come back to you in the primetime games. Always a lot of fun to hang out in the chat box and talk some football and win some wagers. Thanks again for joining us here. Sportsbookrareview.com's The Closing Line. We're right about kickoff here. You got the best bets in the chat. Jay, thanks again for joining us here on the show. We'll do it again next week, my friend, okay? Peace.